conducted in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting has been provided by advertisement in the Cape May Star and Wave on the Township website and has been posted on the bulletin board at Township Hall.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Conrad. Here. Councilmember Neville.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Beck.
Here. We have a couple items on the work session. The first is a proclamation for Constitution Week. We've been asked to read this out. This comes from the Daughters of the American Revolution, and I think we do this pretty much every year. And Constitution Week is September 17th to September 23rd, whereas it is the privilege and duty of the American people to commemorate the 223rd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America, with appropriate ceremonies and activities, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Michael Beck, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of Lower Township, do hereby proclaim the week of September 23rd or September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. Okay, we move down to one of the happy events that we occasionally have here. It's Diana Denote. Where are you, Diana? My eyes are failing me. I see your hand waving out there. Is that Rocco with you there?
Yes.
Someone in there? It's also.
Hey, Mom.
And Mom. Hi, Mom. Yeah, I'm so sorry. You know, I got to get the other glasses on to see that well. Diana has made it to the end of the trail for her employment with the township successfully, and we're sorry to see her go, but we're happy that she has that opportunity now to go home and take care of the house and the husband and all those other sort of duties that you get. And here's a proclamation that we're giving you. And then we're going to come down and Chief Marker's going to give you your plaque. Mastriani. All right, so that would work, wouldn't it? Don't worry about it, I'm sorry. Whereas Diana Denote began her journey with Lower Township's Police Department in May of 1978. And whereas Diana was promoted to various positions within the police department, including her final title as record supervisor. Whereas Diana has worked for many chiefs, including Robert Denny, Don Douglas, John Mayer, Ed Donahue, Brian Markin, and William Mastriani. And whereas Diana is an avid gardener and loves to feed the wild turkeys who frequent her backyard. I feed them in here too. Now therefore it is with great pleasure that I, Mayor Michael Beck, and the Lower Township Council do hereby congratulate Diana on her 35 years of dedicated service and wish her much success in all her future endeavors. Well done, and we thank you for your service. I know how popular you were over there in the police department, and we're certainly going to miss you. If you would step up now, we get a chance. The council would come in. Good luck, you take care of it. If at the turkeys, it's in here. It's in here. They made my read that. If you get tired of feeding them, we can come over and gather a couple of them.
It just takes my breath away when I think because they're so big.
Right.
Yeah.
Do they stick around for Thanksgiving and stuff like that? Here's your proclamation.
Thank you.
And the chief can present you with the plaque, and maybe you could face that way. So, you want your family up here with you?
Sure.
Bring them on. Bring them on. This guy will be beating me up.
Mother.
Hey, Rob. How you doing, pal? How you been? Good to see you.
Once again, I want to attempt to give Diana a plaque that we had made for her a few weeks back. We had a retirement luncheon for her, and I also, had the problem of misspelling a name on the plaque there, so we corrected it. And I got to say, I'm just as sad today as I was that day when you left, and that's why we're opening our first auxiliary volunteer clerk program, and we're asking that maybe you come back on occasion. That's what I'm saying. No, that's good. Anyway, I would like to present to Diana Denote in recognition of her 35 years of dedication to the Lower Township Police Department as record supervisor, 1978 to 2013. Appreciate your time and service. Thank you, Dick.
Judy Gillis, I know you're out here somewhere. It's your turn. Come on down, Judy. We have a proclamation, a certificate of recognition for Judy. I think the whole world knows Judy. No matter where you go, they say, that lady, she's all over the place. She's one of our employees, and she did a good deed. And we're here to tell you about it and to thank her. Look how red she's turning. So. Okay, certificate of recognition for Judy Gillis. On July 14, 2013, Lower Township employee Judy Gillis was performing her duties on a beachfront and saw a gentleman fishing by the jetty. She noticed he was in distress. Judy called for emergency services and assisted Barry Clark, the gentleman who appeared to be passing out. Due to Judy's brave and courageous efforts, Mr. Clark is doing well today. Mr. Greta, who witnessed this occurrence, was so impressed with the quick thinking and professionalism of Ms. Gillis that he described her as an inspiration and a great citizen of Lower Township. It is with great pride that we recognize Judy Gillis, a Lower Township employee, and commend her for going above and beyond the call of duty. That's on by council. You do a great job out there. I mean, this is fantastic that you did this, but I can't tell you how many times, because I watch you right in front of my house because you take care of Mulligan Field a lot. So we're grateful to have you, and I think certainly this gentleman's real happy that you reacted as you did. But we want to thank you for everything you do, including the rest of the time you take care of the township as well as taking care of this guy. Well done. Council. Come on up here. Hold this. Show everybody. Get a picture of you. Congratulations. Put this down right there.
And then we have a cake.
Come on, you deserve it. Is Mr. Greta here, the gentleman that wrote the letter?
No, he couldn't make it,
Okay.
and Barry called me just before. and
That's fine.
He's got held up, so he's not be able to make it.
I just remember like the day after the fireworks going down there, and I mean the temperature was so high along the beach. She had that beach cleaned up completely. And I mean all the bags lined up. We were going to do a cleanup with the Rotary, and she stole our thunder by cleaning it up before we got there. But in the process of doing that, she's like trying to reclaim a coach to donate to a kid that she found on the beach, trying to fix it to see if she could turn it over to one of the agencies, hoping they would get some use, maybe some child would or whatever. So she has a big heart for a little lady. We're very grateful to have her in the church.
Thank you.
Okay? Take it back. Save me ice. Okey dokey. Now we have the aerobatic contest. Tom, do you want to give us a little bit of update? This doesn't come from Tom. It comes from freeholder Will Morey.
A few years ago, Will Moore approached us about having a world championship aeronautic competition in the township. He was just seeking our support. He does not need that or anything because it's not going to be the township function, but he's being courtesy and coming to us. We did not get that. That was for 2012, I believe it was. No, 13. That would have been this year. They would have been having it. We lost out between us and Texas, even though everybody admired what Lower Township had to give in this area. Well, we're talking regionalization, and now they went to have their thing in 2013. They want to have a world championship aeronautic competition here in 2016. From what I understand from what Mr. Morey told me, I think it was a week ago, there is no competition. But he would like our support in this as a township. Will be some inconveniences? Yes, but we don't know which ones yet or how much. This is just coming out. But it's similar to the air competition they have in June for a couple days, but I think this one's going to be much longer, where they're flying over the airport and over Fulling Mill Road. That would affect us, but it would also be bringing the world's attention, of at least a small aspect of it, to our area and what we have to offer. They're asking for our support. They're not asking for any finances or anything else at this time, so that's good because we have no finances to give. And that's it. Council supported it for last year. Well, for it to be happening this year, we didn't get it, but it's coming to council again because they're looking to have it in 2016. I think that pretty much covers it. We just don't. It just came up in the past couple of weeks that we are going to get this if they approve it. They're trying to get word definitely for October 1st. If we're, so that we can know that they're coming in a few years. Anything else you think it's?
No,
That's a nutshell.
The issue is that we had to look at it this meeting. We didn't have a lot of time to bring freeholder Morey in but we had gone through it before. He's away.
Yeah, he's in Europe right now.
Okay. Or Europe. So. Jim? You on board?
Yeah, anything that's good for the airport and bringing that many people to see, economic development, I think it could be a good thing.
It certainly is an opportunity to put the airport on the map with an international flight show and contest. I think it would be good for businesses like Cape May Brewery and many others. We have to recognize on balance that we're going to get some concern from our citizens on the noise. This is going to go for 2 weeks, and every time it happens, we do hear from people about the noise. So I want to encourage folks to weigh in on whether they think the noise is too much for this kind of thing as we go forward and look at these things from down the road.
There is one thing about the noise. Last time, because we brought that up big time, a lot of the European planes have a different type of muffler, and supposedly they're a lot quieter than the ones we get here because this is the national event. So hopefully the noise will be a lot less because some of us that live in that area do hear it. Oh, and you're like, oh, that thing's right over our head. Now it's about half a mile away. So yes, there is some noise, but they're going to restrict. I think the times are a little bit further restricted than they are during this competition.
Okay, now I pretty much agree with what's been said here. It doesn't require a permit from the township. It's, county property, basically, and Fulling Mill Road is county. So they'll be responsible. It doesn't cost us any money. And, we'll have to see. I mean, there's always, the first time you do something, there's always a balance there as to whether or not it was worth it. And, if we get too much of a pushback, we may have to look at it as far as at this point, but, we'll try it one time and see what happens. So we'll move forward from there. Okay? Thank you. Move down now, Norris, it's now your turn. Economic Development Advisory Board presentation. I think he's going to kill the lights. And you want the lights?
I think we're gonna cut some of them.
Yeah, cut one.
Just one.
I don't want lights.
I don't know, can everyone see okay? The board? Yeah.
Which is better?
Is that okay? All right. So, the reason we got into this, a couple of reasons. Number one, most importantly, Cape May County has the third highest unemployment rate in the United States of America. It's over 18%. We know this is because of a seasonal economy. We know this is because of a lot of retired folks, but it's still a high number. And when we were going to the homes, going door to door to represent you, one of the things that we heard a lot about was from parents, and parents concerned about their students and those that are growing up not able to find jobs here in Lower Township, and therefore needing to move away to other places. This was one of the key things we heard, and it's one of the things that we promised we were going to get into and do something about. It's one of the 5 promises we made, Mayor Beck and Councilman Neville and Councilman Douglas and I, that we were going to get into this. So we immediately formed an Economic Development Advisory Committee, and this is a preliminary report. We're required to come back and give you a sense, a view of what we're thinking about and where we're going. And so I'm going to do that briefly tonight. Up here, you have the 10 members, official members of the advisory committee. They were nominated by council. Each member of council recommended 2. And these 10, together with myself as chair, and Councilman Douglas served as vice chair. So as you can see from the list, they represent a cross-section of our economy. We have hospitality, we have the fishing industry. Tourism is our biggest industry by far, followed by fishing. We have the retail constituency, including the Lobster House. We have our landscaping businesses, seashore campsites, J. Sporl, the cultural community, the marinas with Ernie Utch, as well as Rick Weber from South Jersey Marina. I also want to just say thank you to Historic Cold Spring Village for providing us a place to meet, as well as the Lobster House. A gentleman living over in North Cape May, Craig Fitz, who is a long-range planner for a very large community college in Pennsylvania, who now lives here, gave us his support as a facilitator of this process. Now, this is a committee that's going to last through the end of 2014. And then also a company, which I'm going to mention, that gave us a very sophisticated software platform to help groups prioritize amongst lots of ideas. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But they donated their software, the same software that they put in the United States Air Force and other big companies. We cast a wide net. Beyond the official 10 members of this committee, we said, let's cast a wider net and get other sectors of our community involved. So here you see the different sectors that were part of the committee, but also we got the folks from the ferry to come. We got the head of the hospital to come and be a part of it. We got Lower Township, Lower Regional High School, the education community. And at the peak of our meeting, when we had a brainstorming session, there were about 35 people participating at that time to come up with some ideas. And these folks have done a lot of work, and that's why I wanted to make this presentation, to really highlight all the work that these folks have been doing. Here's the approach that we use. First of all, we recognize that we are all in the same boat. If we're going to solve this problem, we have to think regionally. We're all dependent on each other in many, many different ways. So we've got to think about, we just can't think just in our geographic boundaries. We've got to think in the total picture here on this peninsula. We also need to have some long-term ideas that we can work on over time, and some short-term ideas where we can get some quick hits, low-hanging fruit as an opportunity to make immediate improvements that people can say, hey, things are improving. We wanted to engage more than just the committee of 10, and we wanted to have an open and free brainstorming idea where people had a chance to just put stuff up on the board And we categorized those, and they now total 37 different ideas that we're looking at. We're using what's called an idea pageant. This is basically, imagine you have you're given a certain number of green chips and a certain number of red chips. And you're asked to think, if I had to bet on which one of these things could really work for our township, would really be feasible, would give us the biggest bang for the buck, what would I bet my chips on? And so you put your chips down on those ideas, and you only get so many of them, so you can't choose every idea. You've got to basically identify the ones that you really think are the best opportunities for the township to consider. And this is something that's ongoing, because as we talk about these things, people can go back to this, and I'll give you a picture of what it looks like here. This is an example of what I'm talking about. You can see a bunch of ideas. You can see red tokens and green tokens, and people can start putting tokens next to ideas that they think are good, and they can come back and change their mind. So, the more I think about that idea, I think that that's not as good as this other idea. And this thing helps us as an ongoing conversation to continue to prioritize amongst a group of people. And we can invite the larger community to weigh in on this and see what they're saying compared to what the committee members are saying as well. We're going to then, once we get ideas, and we're going to start ranking them, and the good ideas are coming to the top, we're going to get into researching them and get under the hood and understand what they're about. We're going to receive presentations from experts about those ideas so we can really get educated about them. And then we're going to continue to rate them. So maybe when we learn more, we're going to be feeling better or maybe differently about some of the ideas. And then finally, at the end of 2014, we're going to come back with what we believe will be a very thoughtful conclusion of a set of ideas that we have ranked, that we've figured out that they're feasible, and we're going to be asking council to take a look at them and in helping council to say, listen, you could do A, B, C, and D to help improve this process. So either you can do something to help attract new business or improve tourism, or you can do something that will take a barrier that's currently in the way of some of the businesses that are here, keeping them back from their full potential. So please help us to take some of those barriers away. The timeline, quickly, we were formed February 20th of this year. We conclude the end of 14. Our first meeting, Curtis Bashall, who we asked him on the committee because he has many hotels and restaurants. I think he told me he employed well over 100 people in Lower Township with full-time jobs from his operation. And he gave us he was going to be here tonight but couldn't make it, but he encouraged us to think regionally. He pointed out that we're all in the same boat and pointed to some examples of what Mayor Giuliani did in New York, as he improved the economy there in New York after a lot of years, and said we should follow some of the examples of Mayor Giuliani and identify some things that we can quickly do. For example, he dealt with those squeegee people. Remember, you couldn't get into New York City without somebody attacking your car with a squeegee, and just taking care of that made a big impact in terms of people's psychology on New York City. Then in the June meeting, we met at the Lobster House, and we had this brainstorming session that I told you about. We got 30 ideas there, and it's since grown to 37 ideas. And then most recently, in our August meeting, Danny Cohen came. Again, fishing industry is our second biggest industry. Danny, what's on your mind? And his first, I had asked him to talk about the aquaculture. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that, but there's been quite a bit of attention paid to it recently as a result of our Economic Development Committee in the different media outlets. Basically, he got our attention by telling us that he currently employs about 30 people, but he is way under capacity of where he could be, because this idea of Cape May salts and these other oysters that they're growing in farms on our bay over here have become very popular around the country. He is selling them to Texas and California and New York, and they're popular with our restaurants in the region. And when people come here, they like to ask, what's the local thing I can get? And the interest of locally grown things has really grown from the tourist perspective, And it's also, these oysters are considered to be some of the best because they, I give you a whole speech on how these oysters are the best ones. But they see an opportunity to grow by a factor of 10. He believes could easily get up with more farms to accommodate 300 employees. And these full-time people he's employing are receiving health care. And that's the kind of thing that got our attention. And then we began to ask him, what can we do? What barriers do you have that are holding you back from advancing? And what can we do to nurture and foster aquaculture? This led us over to the Rutgers facility, where tremendous research is being done in algae, in oyster, actually hatching the oysters over at the Rutgers facility right here in Lower Township. It's one of the best kept secrets. We're going to start getting tours of this because it's a very advanced facility run by Rutgers. A lot of money's gone into it, and they're figuring out how to get all kinds of disease-resistant strains of oysters so they can go out there and be resistant to any kinds of bacteria. And but they have all kinds of capacity to do other things. Fish, horseshoe crabs, they're begging for partnerships with businesses to do research into new kinds of farming, new kinds of approaches to aquaculture. Algae can be used for nutritional purposes. Algae is given to fish and farming to make, the fish, help feed the fish and so forth and so on. So there's a big opportunity with the aquaculture all around. Danny lit the fire on that, and Rick Weber, perfect timing, just came in, got into the subject of our harbors. And this was raised at this third meeting. I don't know if you know it, but I believe we are the second, Lower Township is the second largest seaport on the East Coast. Lower Township has over 15 marinas. Right, Rick? We counted them? Was it over 15? Maybe more than that, approaching 20. So this is huge for us. And what Rick's going to talk about in a minute is the significance of the sediments which are continually coming into our harbors and making it difficult for our boats. And these businesses have to get the sediments out and put them somewhere so that boats can continue to dock in these harbors. And so the question came up, what can we do about these sediments? Finally, in terms of our timeline, in November, Craig Fitz, who I mentioned earlier from North Cape May, is going to bring down Mary Beth DiVincenzo, who led the economic development program for Chester County, Pennsylvania. She's going to come down as our guest and give us ideas on how we can approach our work over the next year with the Economic Development Committee. So what I want to do now is give some opportunity for some of the members of the committee to talk about some of the ideas which have come up, they've been championing, and some members, people outside the committee as well. As I mentioned, Curtis Bashall couldn't make it here tonight, but one of the things that he is encouraging us to think about is the fact that we have many guests coming into our region, and we have the gateways. Lower Township is the gateway, as the two gateways into Cape May. And so everybody, you can't enter or leave Cape May without coming through Lower Township. We are the exit zero, I like to say. And he said, let's pay attention to making sure that they can be all that they can be, that they look good. And the next person that I'm going to ask to come up is Ernie Utch, who is a well-respected businessman with Utch's Marina, and Ernie has been a great participant on the committee. And I've asked him to say a few words of things that he would like to say about economic development for Lower Township. Ernie.
Thank you. Good evening, distinguished mayor, deputy mayor, honorable members of council. I think that if you consider things, it's a business truism that brand names that are instantly recognizable get people's attention. And that's one of the things that we in Lower Township probably need to take care of and need to address. We need to be recognized. And the obvious answer to that is absolutely true. If we look at Cape May County and we look at the divisions that presently exist, we see that years ago was divided into 3 major parts. And they were done geographically. It was Upper Township, it was Middle Township, and it was Lower Township. And at that particular point in time, that was an important thing, and it proved to be sufficient at the time. But as times change, and they always do, then we need to take a look at things again. We need to revisit those things, and maybe we have to talk about at least making some kinds of changes. I think that one of the changes that the deputy mayor spoke to tonight is he used the word Cape May a lot. And we find that that's used because it is instantly recognizable, where the word lower is not so recognizable. If we look at some of the municipalities that were formed, and I'll point out that the municipalities, the boroughs, came from the township of Lower, look at the one all the way down the end of the state, and they decided to name their little borough Cape May Point. And everybody knows where Cape May Point is. They have Cape May Point Lighthouse, but it's really in Lower Township. Then the next one that happened was West Cape May. And they tagged onto that West Cape May thing, the same thing, and everybody, especially the new people, think that West Cape May is actually part of Cape May when it's actually not. It's a separate municipality, it's a separate borough. If we look at the business people, or we look at some of the developers who were here, you see names like Cape May Crossing. You see North Cape May. Mr. Carl T. Mitnick, who happened to be my first employer right after high school. We see the Cape May Lewisburg. We see the Cape May Point Lighthouse. We see Cape May Harbor, which is predominantly in Lower Township. We see the Cape May Fishing Fleet. We see the Cape May Charter Boats. We see the Cape May County Airport. We see the Cape May Winery. We see the Cape May Brewery. We even have our friend, Mr. Cohen, who named his oysters Cape May Salt. And then we have the Cape May Canal, which is completely a Lower Township, which bisects a part of it. All the time, they play on the same name, the same theme. And they do that because Cape May City has been a resort for hundreds of years, and it's well recognized, and people know where it is. I find in my own experience, if I tell people that I live in Lower Township, they don't know where that is. So I tell them I live in Cape May, and all the business addresses are all the same, and we share the same zip code, 08204, which is the Cape May Post Office again. So I bring a difficult suggestion, and that's all it is, to the members of Township Council. And it's about changing the way that we do our business. It's about changing the way that we are recognized. It's about making us a brand name, and brand names are ever so important. Something that people can see, something that they can relate to, something that they can recognize, something that they want to associate with. I think Township Council needs to look at a change for the Township of Lower's name, from the unrecognizable to the immediately recognizable. And we want to suggest to the council that deliberations begin, and only deliberations, about possibly changing the name from Lower Township to Cape May Township. And maybe possibly one of the ways to accomplish this, because it is so hard to do, is maybe you want to consider a referendum and let the people who live within this community have the final say, or at least certainly get their input for it, because I know that this is not an easy thing. So with the wisdom of the 5 members of council, and the wisdom of your advisors, and the wisdom of the people who live here and reside, I think this is one of the things the Township Council needs to take a good hard look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. At this time, I'm going to have Rick Weber come up. As I mentioned in the same, and this is something, what he's going to talk about is something that he shares with Ernie as his neighbor in terms of the issue of running a marina and dealing with those constant sediments that keep washing their way back and filling up the harbor. So Rick, he has Saltwater Cafe. He was a friend of Lower Township. Thank you very much. And employs what, 70, between his operations, employs 70-some people.
Within the family
Yeah,
business.
within the family business. Rick, thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. Before I start with my commentary, I want to second in concept what Ernie just went through. A lot of people think that marinas are about the renting of storage space. You know, here's a bit of space for the night, a bit of space for a week. But really, we're about hospitality, and we sell hospitality. And as a brand, I have to agree that the Cape May brand is both recognizable and I use it. You know, I mean that's the honest truth. Is I don't call myself a Lower Township marina because it won't sell, and that is not a fault of Lower Township as it is now. This is a great place. It's the fault of whoever chose two really lousy words to put together to call us. But I'm off track. But Lower Township isn't it, in my opinion. Whether it's Cape May, I don't know. But Lower Township isn't it. It's very difficult to sell. It's not. Ultimately, the test is it something I can see across the front of a sweatshirt? And no, that one's not it. In any case, I apologize. Wandered off. Good evening. On behalf of the marine industries of Lower Township, I would like to thank the Commission for recognizing the importance of dealing with dredging issues, particularly the handling of dredged material. A few of us marine owners caught the Commission's attention almost accidentally. We were discussing township opportunities when we veered into the very real threat that we were not dealing with, and that was that dredging could pose a risk to the township, that we had something to lose. The Commission was interested and supportive of the idea that protecting what we have is at least as important as promoting growth. I'd like to take you on a quick synopsis of that conversation. Most everyone here is familiar with Cape May Harbor. It's home to some of Lower Township's highest rateable properties and largest industries. It is also a place where recreation starts for folks across the economic spectrum. Whether you like to sail, fish, kayak, surf fish, or just have a drink by the water and enjoy a cool ocean breeze, you can do that along Ocean Drive. Skellinger's Landing is home to many marinas, large and small, including Ernie and I. A whale watcher, of course, the Lobster House and its many venues and facets. Lower's waterways also include the canal and the waterfront properties along it, an aquaculture facility, and the ferry terminal. To the east, Lower includes the commercial fishing fleet and the rapidly rebuilding 2 Mile at the entrance to Wildwood Crest. At the north end, and frequently overlooked, Lower even takes in Schooner Island Marina and Lighthouse Point in the Wildwood Shawcrest area. Pardon my taking you on tour, but it is important to recall just how much the marine industries play into our life and identity in Lower, to consider what could be lost. The truth is, the vast majority of the areas that I just listed are built on man-made waterways, created in just the last century. The centerpiece of this, Cape May Harbor, was just another wetland when the Cape May Real Estate Company came to town with a vision and a dredge. They made that harbor, dug it more than 30 feet deep, and piled their dredge materials onto what is now the Coast Guard base and the entire north end of Cape May. Nature being what it is, it began filling in the next day. The same is true for the canal, Spicer's Creek, and the Intracoastal Waterway. All man-made, all destined to return to the wetlands if they are not maintained. I am dealing with this right now in my own business. On the wrong tides, I have boats that are literally aground in their slip. So let's dredge, you say. Interestingly, dredge access and even pricing are not our primary problems. The primary constraint on dredging in Lower Township and most of New Jersey is what to do with the dredged materials. Locally, we accumulate clay silt, not strong enough for use in most construction purposes, though it is safe enough for residential usage. This is not the New York Harbor sludge so many people think of. Ours is tested and clean. What we've been doing for decades is piling up this dried mud all over Lower Township. The luckiest of marinas have their own containment areas. The DRBA has an area. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has a large area in the township. The majority of these areas, however, are at or nearing capacity. Piling this stuff up higher does not seem to be a viable option. We're at the point of needing the help of our government at all levels. I'm afraid I haven't come to you with a single ask, a magic bullet, something that could end this problem. Instead, I think our solution will be a myriad mix of what they call beneficial reuses. The township manager, on hearing of our plight, offered an experiment to mix some of this material with some of the MUA's mulch to see if it would compost into something that could be the equivalent of topsoil or potting soil. I'd like to thank him for his creativity and willingness to help, but that won't be the whole solution. There is a lot of mud, and more accumulates every day. Perhaps other departments could find viable uses as well. Sometimes the best way to help will simply be to help press with the state and federal governments. The Garden State Parkway project is going to use 300,000 cubic yards of non-structural fill. Where it is coming from is still to be determined, but maybe the municipality should be part of the discussion. I'm told that what we need is a plan. More specifically, a dredged material management plan. These are apparently pulled together by a local engineer, and that engineer becomes the clearinghouse for dredged material information. If you're looking for pure clay, go to Ernie's. If you're looking for clay plus a little bit of sand, go to Harry's, along those lines. I think that's the direction we really need to be looking into is to have a clearinghouse. As I say, the solution is not going to come all at one time. It's going to be a little piece at a time. And if our experiment works and they want more of the same material, there should be a place where we can look and find and say, I have more of that over here, or something along those lines. I think a plan is really important, but it is not, and we're not alone in dealing with this. You know, I'm off script now, but I'm actually more comfortable being off script. And that is that we're not alone in this. The state is dealing with it. The Corps won't let us into their big lot that has tons of capacity. Why? Because it is the capacity is more valuable to them than anything that we could pay. And they've got a 100-year timeline. They set a good long timeline, and it's what they're working on. And I think that we need to join them in that longer term thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Danny couldn't be here tonight. I just want to say that Danny is someone who's been around a long time and has always thought about developing something locally and making our community better. He's the kind of guy that when we needed $7,500 for our recreational programs, he found it, $7,500 to help put on the fireworks and other things like that. And he came in just, very humbly and said, we've started something here. They actually use a technique that they found that they use in France. And we got out there and took a tour and got out into the bay. You can go out there too and see it. All these acres of oysters in bags. They turn them every day, wash them, turn them every day, wash them. And they come up with a way to make them particularly round and deep, which are apparently good for oysters. And a lot of folks that like oysters tell me that they're very good. So we're going to continue to look at that, and there's been a lot of attention thanks to all of you in the media for that. Finally, one of the big ideas on the list, and you can't talk about economic development without thinking about the Cape May County Airport. It's just impossible. It's been coming up year after year, and it has come back high on the radar screen when we talk about economic development. So we will definitely be continuing to look at ways in which we can work that. And we have talked to people that want Olympic-sized swimming pools put in there. We've talked to people that want to do bioscience companies in the airport. But you don't have to go very far to find a very successful business that was started recently that has put us on the map in terms of craft brewery. And thanks to Ryan Krill, thanks to his risk-taking, thanks to his vision, and thanks to his hard work, he has brought a successful business to our airport in the name of Cape May Brewery. And Ryan is, whenever we go over there to try some beer, he said, you know, we're growing, we need to think about what we should be doing down the road in terms of fanning the flame of our businesses here, and he's got some ideas, and I've asked him to share those with us tonight. Ryan, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for having me here. As you're aware, my name is Ryan Krill, and I am the president of the Cape May Brewing Company. We started our business about 2.5 years ago. It was me, my friend from college, Chris, and my father, Bob. When we first got started, Chris, he was the bravest of the three of us. He quit his job first and started brewing 50 gallons at a time, which is about the equivalent of 3 kegs. We had one account, Cabanas in Cape May, and that was it. We called ourselves a brewery. Today, we now have a shiny, brand new 500-gallon brew system. We have 10 employees, all of whom have health benefits, year-round employment, 50 accounts all over Cape May County and Atlantic County, and we continue to grow. We've outgrown our current unit, or the first unit, now we're into 3 units, and now we're into slowly moving into the old Town War building on Breakwater Road. So just as a matter of opinion, most new ventures begin during times of recession or difficult economic times, whether it be due to underemployment, unemployment, weakened competitors. You may have an opportunity to negotiate better terms with vendors or suppliers, and financing is typically cheaper. So this is an opportunity for folks to start a new business. If they're going to do it, it's typically going to be in a time like now. And what these new ventures are going to need is cheap rent. They're going to need expandability, and they're going to need a good landlord. One that's not necessarily interested in getting the top dollar of rent or inching every penny out of the back or ground. In my opinion, the airport is right for this kind of development. It's the only industrial space in the lower part of the county. Trust me, we looked everywhere for good industrial space. When we first moved in, it was vacant. All those little buildings that we're in were all vacant. Today, it's 100% occupied. An interesting story is Ocean Interiors. They used to have their little warehouse there, and then they had a retail outlet in downtown Cape May. He closed the retail outlet in Cape May and now has his showroom at the airport. A couple others that started since we've been there is House of Print, a little print shop, a guy named Carl Soup, just like me. His passion is printing shirts, and he's really good at it. And then we have George's Auto, and then another hardwood floor company. And they're all doing pretty well. You know, the building is totally rented out. And I think everybody here would agree, that everybody wants something to happen at the airport. The county wants it, the DRBA wants it to happen, Lower Township wants it to happen, and its residents want something to happen there. The DRBA has been doing its part, in my opinion. They've been doing a great job. They've been like part of their MO is to provide economic development. That's in their mission statement. They do it in not a typical way. They're not just handing out money to folks. But they've been investing. They've repaved the roads. They've upgraded all the landscaping. They've gotten rid of all the old rusty fences to kind of open it up and make it more inviting. And they're very generous with the tenant improvements to make the build out of their buildings very suitable for residents. An interesting and kind of depressing fact of life for Cape May County, last summer our unemployment was at 9%, which is high. And that was this summer. Over the last winter it was at 20%. To put that in perspective, Greece's unemployment rate now is at 26%. So we're really not that far off, right? But they're taking all kind of drastic measures to adjust that. And that's what I'm arguing here, not necessarily so drastic, but give an incentive for folks to come to the airport. The DRBA, part of their longer-term plan is to build another one of the incubator space buildings, just like ours. So about a dozen 1,500 square foot spaces right next to it. So they want to have more development. And so I think that if there was more of an incentive for folks to start a business or bring their businesses to the airport, the only industrial area in the south part of the county, I think we can all invest. So my final remark is invest in the airport, and those businesses will invest in Lower Township. Thank you.
the final note to sound, and then we'll be done for this report. We'll be back to you again for an opportunity to report on our thinking as it evolves and develops over time, and we come up with new ideas. But we also have gotten with the high school and Chris Kovic and said we really need to help encourage the young people in our junior class and senior class to think about careers and think about starting their own businesses and think about staying here. And for that purpose, we invited people like Curtis Bashel to come to the class, the junior class, and say, listen, I want 13 of you to who are interested in being entrepreneurs, start businesses, to come work with me, follow me around, and develop some ideas, and I'm going to have you compete. It was kind of an apprentice program. And those of you who have good ideas that convince me they're good ideas, whether it's a bike shop or what have you, I'll bankroll it. So he was able to fire the flames of some young people in the high school to think about how they could start businesses here locally to sustain our economy. And this is catching fire. And now other business leaders are offering to come into the high school, and this is going to become a regular program where we bring people into the junior class as they're thinking about what am I going to do with my life, and try to light a flame for my career. What can I do? And maybe what can I do here locally to start a business? There's many opportunities. I mean, who would have imagined Cape May Brewery? And there's so many other opportunities like this that we have right around the corner. So we're going to be working with the school to light the flames, the sparks in the eyes of students as they think about what they're going to do for their careers, and then give them internships in businesses, whether they're in the trades, whether they're in the professions, or whether they're in the as entrepreneurs. Give them opportunities to work with people in the area that are doing these things, and mentor. That's the key part. Mentor and encourage the young people, the next generation, to have a vision, have a dream, and then be willing to pay the price to make that dream a reality. So in closing, thank you to all of the members of our committee and to Glenn for co-chairing this. I think we've done some good work. We're off to a good start, and we'll keep you posted on everything that's developing. Thank you.
Since kind of overwhelmed, that was actually exciting to watch some of that. You've done an awful lot of work. Proud of your efforts and the efforts of the committee. And I think that there's an excitement there that is hard to generate nowadays, to get people to come out and volunteer their time. And you only do that if you feel there's a chance of making a difference. I mean, you keep going back to people and nothing gets done, they give up. But I think you've climbed over that hurdle, and I think you have people that they're not shooting for the moon, but they're looking for things that, in some, not all, but some of the things can be done. And I think you've developed a sense of passion within that committee, and that is appreciated. And we thank you for that. Tom?
Oh, I'm fine. I like a lot of the ideas. I mean, it's
Okay.
Mayor, I just want to, encourage us to pursue some thinking around how we could incentivize businesses to develop their business in the airport. And I know you and I have had some discussions about this, and you have some ideas that I think are really good, and I think we should, in terms of giving tax abatements for businesses that invest in properties that they're renting there, or businesses that they're renting there.
You know, I remember when Ryan, when he contacted us a couple of years ago, and they deserve all the credit in the world. He and his crew over there have done a remarkable job. And they had one employee, I think, in the beginning there, and he was constantly employee of the month, but that was okay. and I got a kick out of it. And, they're not going to solve the employment, they're not going to make a difference in the total picture of Cape May County, but they've made one hell of a difference in the lives of 10 people over there. And I think that's the vision we need to have. We're not going to bring IBM in here. I don't ever see something like that. That if we can do the small things and they add up to a big picture, and they all become part of a mosaic, and it shows in the lives of our people. I mean, there's 10 people, and I'm sure once you move across there, that you can become the anchor, industry we need over there in a lot of ways, but once you go to a bigger building. But we want to find other firms to keep you company. And Norris and I have been, and you, we've talked about tax abatements. And I think it's something that we'll put on the agenda in council, and I know Tom's all on board with it, and Jimmy. Something that we'll look at a work session in the immediate future as part of our ante up. It's our way of priming a pump so that when somebody comes down here and they're looking, and they can say to them, well, yeah, if you do put a firm here, the township has a tax abatement program to help you get started. The state has all sorts, and we've been looking at it, and we'll talk more about it at a work session, but I think it's something that's eminently doable. Thank you. Okay, well, it's only an hour in, and we haven't even hit the consent agenda yet. So. All right, so, okay, we'll go down council. We'll now move to the consent agenda. Council questions or suggestions or whatever on the consent agenda?
Question on ordinance 2013-20. It's kind of vague.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. It's
Go to school, Tom.
well, it has to do with the checklist. What's it called?
Best practice.
Best practices.
The only thing I'm looking at is, I have no problem with training.
Right.
I go to the GIF thing every year. I've been to the elected, go to the League of Municipalities, go to classes, do all this other stuff.
Right.
But saying CUs and the elected officials don't have CUs.
Yeah, and the other part of it is when you require somebody to do something and then they don't do it, what's the penalty? Well, they can't throw us out of office, but it's the way that the checklist was written. And in order for us in the checklist, and
Yeah, oh no, I
has to do
agree
with
I
funding.
agree with the classes. It's just when they put CUs there when there's, for Clark, there's CUs she has to do.
According to, if I may, according to what the best practice requirement is that you attend the class. If you go to the League of Municipalities, every class you attend has CEUs with it that are approved by the DLGS. Every class you attend.
If they're doing that now, yeah, because
That's-
last year we couldn't tell.
Right, but that's what they're referring to.
That's the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, no, and I think that's
It doesn't hurt.
no, it's, as I said, you're bringing new ideas. I, 1 year offered, I'm going to the seminar, in class anyway, so you go to interest, because we have to bring new ideas into the township. We can't always do things the same way. Let's hear what other towns are doing. That's where you learn.
Well, the interesting thing too is, just so you know, the New Jersey Water Environment Association, that's the association of all the authorities. We have to get credits, 18 in a 3-year window. And when they come into the class, you get swipe your card. If you leave, you're not there when the end of the class swipes, you don't get the credits. So that's a little warning. I've been doing this for 10 years. We got to get 18 credits every. And actually, I'll be one of the ones with the swipes because I volunteer for that. I'll be there.
You don't leave and come back, do you? Check. All right. Any other council comments on the consent agenda? Open up for public comment on the consent agenda? Yes, sir.
First of all, I'll take the microphone and walk over here. Ed Butler from the Village.
All right.
Just a couple items on the agenda you had tonight. Looking at it on 2013-251. You have your resolution approving interlocking service agreement between the Township of Lower and Lower Cape May Regional High School
Right.
District, all right? And the school resource officer for $226,374.84. And then the next one right below it, 2,052, is for your elementary school. I'd like to find out, why are we supplying that to the schools when they have their own budget?
Well, that's what they're paying us,
That's what they're paying the township.
yes,
You're getting a rebate back on it.
for the part of the year in which they serve in the
All
school.
right. So these are officers that are actually from the township
That serve.
that are working in there. Why can't they actually have their own privatized officers and put these officers back to work on the street?
Well,
So it could help out your drug enforcement thing.
I think in some cases, and especially the regional, they want a regular police officer there.
You what?
They want, and they pay for a regular police officer.
What would be the difference?
And if
in
you're,
their budget?
you know, look, they asked us for it, it wouldn't make any difference. We get the best of both worlds in this. One is, we get the officers back for the summer, which is our peak time.
Well, it's
that
a
the rest of the year-
9-month program. which
It is a 9-month program, so the rest of the year, they're actually, their salaries are being paid by the schools.
That also, the officers in the school also do the DARE program. They're doing drug
All right.
education.
Well, I'm just saying like
Okay,
that,
and-
you could have this officer all year long without having.
And then we would
them have
lose
their own.
we would lose the revenue, of course, you know that, right?
And the officer also, because he's there, the students start communicating with him, so it opens dialogue, and that helps the police department.
Leadership, everything.
Yes.
And that's only one officer for each school, for regional and all 4 elementary schools that you have in the district.
That's what you have there,
Just one each.
yes.
All right, so they move around in the elementary school. That's my question. As long as it comes back and it's not costing the taxpayers.
No, we actually get a huge benefit out of this.
All right, very good, thank you. Then we get down to 2013, 257. The purchase price of the resolution affirmative review and financial approval of the application to purchase development easement on Slabs Farm. All right, with that one there, actually, what's the purchase price of that?
Well, it's
Forget the
$37,000 an acre,
How much?
$37,000 an
An
acre.
acre, okay, so you got 12 acres, so it comes
It's
up.
about
to that, okay.
450 grand. so-
Very good. All right, I thank you for your information. I
Thank you.
just want clarity on it.
Thank you. Anybody else with consent agenda questions? Close the public portion. Do I have a motion to approve? Oh, sorry, that's that.
Approval of minutes from September 4th, 2013. Resolution number 2013-247 through 2013-258. Ordinance number 2013-19. An ordinance amending Chapter 441 entitled Noise of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Lower. This specific ordinance is being amended to reflect the loading and unloading not be allowed between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. 7 days a week. This is the first reading. The second reading and public hearing is scheduled for October 4th. And ordinance 2013-20, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2012-01, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Administration of Government of the Codes of the Township of Lower. And this ordinance is adding the required elected officials training. This is also the first reading. The second reading and public hearing is scheduled for October 4th, 2013.
Now,
Now,
may I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Councilmember Conrad,
Yes.
Councilmember Neville,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark,
Yes.
Mayor Beck.
Yes. Moving down now to the administrative reports. Any comments or questions? Move to council comments.
Judy, it's nice to see you recognized for everything you do. There's a lot of township employees that do extra. Everyone says they recognize Judy for being all over the place. There's a bunch of others. Look around. They're all doing a great job. I want to thank all the employees for the work they do for the township, not just as employees, but as residents.
All right. I was looking for Mr. Lindsay. I don't think he's here today. He came last week, and we really didn't have a chance to even view the names for their qualifications, and he wanted us to fill a council seat. He did have a letter after he discussed May and shall and whatever lawyers do. But he has a thing that says there are important issues, especially the dissolution of the regional school district. So Ward 3 probably should have a person sitting there for the next 3 meetings until the election. At least I think so. And one of the applicants, I think, would be a pretty good friend to Ward 3 and what we're trying to accomplish with seeing to it that the voters are keen in voting no and no on the dissolution of the school. This person has volunteered for West Cape May, Boy Scout Troop 73, Cub Scout Troop 73, and we also, as a lover, want to see West Cape May and Cape May shoot down this. And I think that with all the contacts that Boy Scouts have had over the course of the time, I'd like to nominate Jackie Henderson to take the Ward 3 council seat.
I think it's a great idea. I would support that.
You made a motion.
Oh, then I second.
Councilmember Conrad?
I'll support 8 out of 3, so yes.
Councilmember Neville?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes, I believe she's here. Jackie, is that you back there? I'll give you an option. Would you like to be sworn in now, or would you rather like have your family come in tomorrow and the clerk or I would be here at some point, we can swear you in? What would be your druthers? Is this like a shock to you, I guess, right now?
Yes. So my husband would be able to attend, I would say, tomorrow.
Okay, when the meeting's over, just come on up. I assume that you're accepting the position.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was
that was
the
the
position.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank you.
And nice to have you up here. And when you're done, just come up and see Julie, and we'll make arrangements for you to come in tomorrow, or whenever is convenient for you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Council person, council lady,
Councilwoman?
councilwoman.
Council
all right?
Mama.
Council mama, council soccer mom, whatever works. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
I'll save my time. That's enough to say today.
It doesn't work that way. You get your minutes now. There's no bank on this. Okay. I have a few items. Tom or Jim had said about just vote no for the referendum. And we are mounting a campaign. There was good press coverage, and I'm happy with that. That showed our position and where we're headed with that. We'll be doing the absentee ballots for the November election will be coming out within a few days. And we'll be doing a reverse 911 call to make sure our residents are aware that this issue is on the ballot, and asking them to take note of that and advising them to the consequences if somehow Cape May were to succeed in their endeavors, the council, I should say. So we certainly will be highlighting that. And the other part of that call, which I'm going to go, is that a week from tonight, the 23rd, we have our drug symposium here. It's a substance abuse. I hope you get the word out. I went to a funeral for a 23-year-old on Saturday for substance abuse. I have a lot to say on this. I mean, we have a major problem in the state, not just the township. But the township has taken lead. All of council sees this, understands that, and we're doing everything we can to combat this evil. So you have a substance abuse symposium, Lower Township's Approach to a Community Problem, September 23rd at 6 p.m. It is a lot easier to fight to keep this out of your house than to fight to get it out of your house. I am warning parents, I am telling parents, there's only so much the township, the police department can do. You have to show leadership. and I'm particularly talking to the fathers out there. You know, I went to the county drug symposium last week, I guess it was, and there was quite a crowd there, 140, 150 people. But just a rough guesstimate, 80% were the ladies. They get this. You know, I said to somebody the other day, well, we're having this thing next Monday, and his response was, well, you know, that's Monday Night Football. And I mean, you know, it takes the air out of you. And where's the problem coming from here? In all my years of policing, I never pulled up on a corner and saw 8 ladies standing there selling drugs. And I'm being honest about it. I've been to a lot of corners and seen a lot of people selling drugs, but the men need to show leadership here. Don't come back to me in 10 years and try and tell me about your kid having a problem, and you're more interested in what's on Monday Night Football than you are your kid's future. You need to get down here, gentlemen, and show some leadership to your kids. I mean, there's a problem out there on the streets, and you know, we're doing everything we can. And one of the things that we're doing is next Monday at 6 o'clock, and I've got the chief will be there, the prosecutor, you know, Chris Kovic, the school superintendent's coming, and Kate Assist is taking lead, Lynn Krakowski. They're all concerned, they're all up on the parapets, we're all fighting, but you know, we're second-rate fighters. The real fighters in this are the folks, the parents. If they're not fighting, I don't know that we're enough. If you're not in your kid's life, I mean, you know, you need to be part of your kid's life. You need to know what your kid's doing. When you go to funerals for kids that are in their 20s, it's not fun. I mean, we've all been there, but I mean, this is not right. It's a waste. So I hopefully next.
I want to interject on that one real quick.
Go ahead.
There may be a new batch out that's not good. It might be a fluke. Or we're seeing a slight rise in overdoses right now in the township. Hopefully it's a fluke. But what he's saying about the families, unless you're there and see the family react, they may seem cold, oh, everything's okay. But when that hits their family, be in the house, you don't want anybody to ever go through that. Please get the word out, get people there. There's things out there to help people. This could be one of them.
I don't know how much, and you know, once they get into this, one of the things we learned up the county was that, you know, it's like rehab, fall, back up, rehab, fall, back up. It's so much easier to stop it before it gets in your house. I don't know how many stories I've heard where somebody tells me, yeah, we got him into a rehab and we went up and looked in his room and we pulled the mattress back and it was loaded with needles. And I mean, you know, how does that happen? I mean, if you're in my house, there's no Fourth Amendment. I'm being honest about it. I mean, you got to be active in your kid's life. You've got to be able to know what your kid's doing. I don't know. That's just me. All right, so we have that. Then we go to Cape May County Flu Clinics, drive-through Sunday, October 6th, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Kindle Ford and Cape May Courthouse. There are a variety of dates. Pick up a flyer in the back of the room. Okay. Now we have the big one, which is Eileen's. Eileen deserves all the credit in the world for this. Eileen Price, our township worker here. This is the New Jersey Run for the Fallen, to honor and remember New Jersey service members who have fought and died in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom, and New Dawn. Which throws me off just for a second. There's 2 events that we attend during a year that are exceptionally emotional but necessary and honored to be there. One is this event, the Run for the Fallen. It has the Gold Star mothers, and your heart breaks. And then we had the September 11th down at Sunset Beach. We were all down there, and that's an honor too. They bring the poor fireman's wife, Mrs. Pancini, and the kids down from New York, and the Marvin Hume and his family do a fantastic job at Sunset Beach, as they have since 2001, in having a flag lowering ceremony for that family. And the crowd down there is just enormous. when you go to that. So let me go on to the Run for the Fallen here, back on. That was just a diversion real quick. And it says it's a relay team to cover 1 mile for each fallen service member in the run from Cape May Lighthouse to the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Where's that at?
Homedale, New Jersey.
Oh, Homeville. Okay. And it says, in an apolitical reflection of remembrance, a team of active duty military runners from Joint Base McGuire, Dix, Lakehurst, and other units will embark on a 172-plus mile 3-day run to honor every New Jersey service member killed. The New Jersey Run for the Fallen will start at 8:30 a.m. on Friday, September 27th, 2013, from Cape May Lighthouse, and will cover 172 miles. There it is. Before finishing at the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Homedale on Sunday, September 29th at 4 p.m. Each mile covered will be dedicated to a New Jersey hero, and the team will stop at each hero marker to present an American flag and a personalized biographical card to waiting Gold Star family members, friends, and comrades, with the intent of creating a 172-plus mile memorial trail through New Jersey. A Gold Star family is a family who has lost an immediate member in support of our nation's freedoms. Thursday, September 26th at 6 p.m., we join Marvin Hume at Sunset Beach for a special flag ceremony, which is dedicated to all New Jersey fallen service members. Over 30 families of those who gave their lives will be present for this ceremony, along with the runners and run support team. This is an emotional and touching event that we encourage everyone to attend. It is important to the families that we do not forget the sacrifice they and their loved ones made for our country. I mean, how true is that? Friday, September 27th, we honor 2 local heroes on Friday, Captain Tom Casey at 9:05 a.m. on Westlake Drive in Cape May Point. And we'll continue to Lower Cape May Regional High School. We will honor local hero Mike Scusa, who attended Lower Cape May Regional at approximately 10:25 a.m. The families and friends of these men will be at their hero markers and are asking for residents to come out at that time to show your support and gratitude to those families and to the runners who are honoring them. It is, I can't, imagine being one of those parents, but at the same time, you can't change things, but you can make them feel better by coming out there and making a crowd that people can see and say, well, we feel for you, we appreciate what your child has done for this country, and we're here to honor their memory. So I hope we get some people out there for that. And Eileen works hard for that. She's been recognized by this outfit, so we thank her for all her efforts. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
Am I okay with that? Okay. All right, I think that's it. Did I miss? We are actually? Okay, we'll open up the call to the public. If yes, Mr. Bill.
Yeah, Bill Greenfield, Billis. Yeah, I got a few questions and maybe a few things to think about with the new flood maps and how that relates to the current reassessment going on in the township. What is the date that the reassessment's going to be adopted?
Well, let me just say that that's going to be out at the end of the year. They've done the legwork. But Bill, assessments are based upon sales of homes. So until first of all, those flood maps are far from even being done. There's a long road ahead for that. And I told you, we have a meeting with FEMA on Wednesday here that is open to public. It's for public officials. It's not open to the public yet. But we will strongly express our concern with
Are those flood maps going to be taken into account as far as how they're affecting property values?
It will, if it does affect the property values. That's what I'm trying to say. You have to wait for sales to be able to determine the impact on the assessments.
Well, the new flood maps are going to be the most current data available at the time that's adopted. So if you're basing the property values on the old flood maps, then the values are outdated before you even adopt it.
No, they don't base them, they don't base property values on flood maps, they base them on sales.
Well, could that be, a primary factor is what, comparable sales in the area?
That's what
Could
that,
the flood map changes be like a secondary factor to be considered?
there's no other factor. It's what, we went through this because somebody had asked before you, and I dealt with our assessor on it. And what you need, first of all, the flood maps are not going to be finalized for a while. This is still a preliminary map. The assessment will be out long before the flood maps are finished. And what you have is, if it does have an impact, it certainly will be taken into consideration. It's just impossible to tell at this
Okay,
point.
can there be in this, like, a mechanism when the assessments are adopted to go back and revisit the areas, like say in a year, or affected?
Well,
changes
there'll be a
in-
way to do that after sales begin, after the assessments, after the maps are done, and homes start to sell. If they're significantly lower than anticipated, that's where the assessor would step in and say, wait a second, we have a problem here, and adjust the assessments.
Right, but that might not be done until 5 years down the road, right?
Well, it won't be done until well after the flood maps are done. That certainly, you can't determine
So
right
you're
now.
saying
we're not-
once, so you're saying once the assessments are adopted, if, say, a year from now, you notice, well, these property values are getting skewed real bad here.
How would you
Then the
even
assessor's
measure,
gonna stop
how would you
it.
measure an impact that is anticipated? It's almost impossible, you can't measure it. You have to wait until you actually have home sales. You know, there could be,
Okay.
for all we're saying, I mean, we're not done with the flood maps yet. If they get adjusted, you may see,
Well, if they're adjusted.
well, they might be, that's what I'm trying to say. We're not gonna hold the assessment up waiting for the flood maps. The assessment will go through it. If there's a need for adjustment, it will be made.
Okay, I mean, because one thing that could impact it is, we've talked, it's been mentioned in the past about real estate disclosure, so people are selling a house now, but they may have to disclose, hey, I don't meet the base flood elevations.
Right.
This house is gonna have to be raised if you buy it.
Right.
So,
Well, we won't know that until.
That's gonna affect property values. And right now, we don't even know how, as I was talking to you about this before, we don't even know how many homes went from a non-flood zone into a flood zone.
No, we're
That's
still
gonna affect our value.
throwing numbers up. There's,
And the purpose of reassessment is because so many people are appealing. Well, 2 years from now, you're gonna have a lot of people appealing their home values because they drop, so
what happened?
kind of defeating the purpose of not taking this into consideration.
Bill, it's impossible to take into consideration right
And, some people, probably gonna end up losing their homes because, I mean, down the road, because the mortgage companies are gonna want them to have flood insurance. And they're not gonna be able to afford it, from what I understand, rates are gonna be skyrocketing, once the federal government stops subsidizing it. So I think it's just something, any way you can put off adopting past the first of the year, please.
now. If we did that, we'd have
A better idea of what
No, we-
kind of impact,
we're on schedule for where we're heading.
okay, because, like I said, a lot of it's gonna be out.
We will adjust
state of-
accordingly as the numbers turn up, and if there's an issue, it'll be adjusted.
Now, that's the whole township again, or just,
Well, it
spot,
would
you're
only
gonna
be,
spot
well,
reassess?
so the only ones that would be impacted would be those that might be in that zone, but we'll have to wait and see until the numbers come in.
So that would be like a spot reassessment then?
Well, it would
I
be,
thought that was illegal.
no, you talk about spot zoning.
How is it?
And what we're talking about is an area that might have some kind of an issue that doesn't happen in another area, and it wasn't anticipated. So,
All right, that's pretty
Okay.
much it, just a few things that.
I hear you,
about.
I understand your concern. We're
No,
doing
I
everything we
understand you
can.
can't control the flood maps, but.
No,
you
we're
could have
doing our
some
best to
say
make
in the
sure that
assessment, so.
if at all possible, and I can't promise this, because what I want to do is to have the FEMA people come in and address our people.
Right,
I don't want to be the middleman.
right.
You know,
And the FEMA people aren't gonna answer the questions.
Well, we
The
had
assessments.
a sugar load of people here last week
Right,
we had a packed house for the elevation meeting.
yeah, no,
It was 100, you were here, there was 125, 150 people in this one. So,
Yeah, I'm not finding fault with you guys, it's just
Nah, we're doing the best.
what the, how it needs to be
Right.
assessments.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I was just going to say that it's really important for our voice to be heard. FEMA saved us for last when they identified our stretch of bay to be in the V zone. And as they came down the coast and identified the various flood zones, people stood up and said, hey, you need to look more closely at this and see what the situation is. People that have been taken out of the V zone over on the ocean side are in a much more flood-prone area than our folks are along the bay. Our elevations along the bay are in many cases
Well,
10.
that's like some properties potentially increased in value by that happening.
Right.
You were negatively affected yourself.
Yeah, I'm one that.
You went from an A zone to a B zone.
That's
We're
correct.
right around the corner from it.
Right.
Right.
So I'm very sensitive to this, and the first step is to make sure that they pay attention, they have a record of coming back, paying better attention about what they're doing and adjusting their maps. They've just gotten to us. I think that they've sort of taken this, a preliminary look at it, put a red swatch along our bay and said that's the V zone. I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to get them to see that that's inconsistent with what they've done in other places, and they need to change their tune on it.
Thank you. Steve? Frank, Steve's coming. Don't make me come down here, Frank.
Thank you. It's actually short. I enjoyed tonight's meeting. I thought it was very well. It was very well done. A couple things I just want to mention. Among these are, we share 6 zip codes. Share 6. Cape May Point has one. They share it with us. Our 08251, we share with Delhaven. All around the border, we have all these others. Here we are, principal municipality. We should be fighting with somebody, including Mr. Lobiando if need be, to get our own zip code. 80%, over 80% of the mail that goes into Cape May overnight comes back over the bridge. What a waste. What a terrible waste of money. The other thing I wanted to mention is I know a little bit about economic development. Okay? I want you to be aware of several things. We did have commercial flights every day from our airport to Philadelphia. The best customer was the Coast Guard because the recruits and the families would come in, especially for the graduations. We had people attempting to bring the Powder Puff Derby. These are female pilots from throughout the whole United States, wanted to come here to Hangar 1 and have a ball and stay in Cape May. This is the kind of thing I think we need. There's so many other ideas, but perhaps the most important one that I can tell you is the business incubator. Now back then, we had a different county clerk, but she tracked the number of new registrations for businesses that she recorded each month. The number was 50. That's a lot. We developed a plan for a business incubator in the front portion of the Everlong building. We went to Washington and proved the necessity of it and was awarded $900,000 from the federal government with a matching $600,000 from the state to establish that business incubator. I assume all of you are aware of how an incubator works. In case you don't, I'll be brief. 5 people from the county would be appointed. There would be only 1 person from the freeholder board. The others would be leaders in business. By the way, input to that study was put in there by Charlie Pisagno, by Dave Cohen, and some of these other people, so they knew what they were talking about. You have a lot of people out there with an entrepreneurial spirit who really want to make things go, but they don't have the resources to do it. And what does this do? This provides them with a facility where they share services. They have 5 years. They come in, and if they're not successful, they're kicked out. If they're successful after 5 years, they're kicked out. The most interesting one I saw was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, where an old Duryea car plant was converted. A couple of young men used to go out and break into vending machines to take the money. They decided to go into the repair business, and that board approved them getting in. Those folks moved out and built a 10,000 square foot building to repair that kind of equipment, and they also picked up a big chunk of the one-armed bandits. That study is still available and should be in the hands of Mr. Will Maury. He has it. I never got it back from him. But it tells you all of the details you would want to know about how to establish a business plan. If you want to talk about this more sometime, I'll be glad to oblige you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, yeah, please, please.
Frank Sirocco to Bills. About this map business with the elevation and what have you, do you think it's possible that they could mark this map better? For instance, give you different names of different locations, say for example, Coxall Creek, say the Millman Center, where the township offices are, and where the MUA is, so that the local people in this area know pretty much where they are in the areas of question. Because if you look at some of these maps here, you can get pretty confused.
You talk about these?
These maps back here, yeah.
Yeah, we gotta get better maps up there.
Because there are no locations on there that you can actually recognize.
We actually had reached out to the county and getting a better set. Let's just put it that way.
I think the best thing for people to do is take advantage of coming in here and sitting right on that computer screen, and you can zero in right onto your house. It's better than any map's going to be that we could ever print. If you could.
Well, this is all well and good, but there are people who don't have computers.
What I mean is come in and use ours. Use our computer.
During the day and see the engineer, and then you could. Right.
It's better than any map I could print for you. You want to see exactly where your house is, and you want to be.
Well, you don't necessarily need to know where your house exactly is. If you know where the area is, you can get a very good idea. But the way these maps are marked out, you have no idea. It's
right.
It's very
You're right. Those maps are hard to read, and I wouldn't. You're not going to get much good from that, except to get a general idea.
Yeah, but like I said, if you want to know your area, it's very difficult to pick it out.
Yeah.
Anybody else wish to address council?
George Doherty, Seashore Road in Irma. I heard a rumor, I don't know if this is true, but somebody had told me that the MUA is thinking about privatizing itself, and they're this is what I heard from somebody. I haven't read anything about it.
I have nothing on that.
I can tell you, at the last MUA meeting, they stated they were not looking to privatize anything through 2014.
Okay, because I heard that they
Clearly,
were
the
getting
executive director, Mr. Sirocco was there. They were very clear that they were not looking to privatize through 2014, correct? That's correct. So, that was something that could have came up, but that they come up and they were,
Okay, because I heard something. I heard some local people are going to lose their jobs too, and they're going to bring an outside company in. And I'm just wondering, does anybody know anything? If,
that's the best we can tell you is what they said at the meeting. That was right before the last meeting.
Yeah, I heard after the meeting, so I couldn't go there and really find out from anybody.
Well, I was at that meeting and this meeting.
Okay, and it's not happening as far as we know?
2014, no, it's not.
Okay, so what would this mean if it did happen? That means some local people are gonna lose jobs and they're gonna bring in an outside company? That's what I heard on this, they're letting go some people.
You're asking me to expound on it.
Okay, then you don't.
Deny.
Okay.
They said it's not happening, so.
Okay. All right, so, does anybody?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm gonna relocate again because we're gonna talk about this a little more, but just to answer that question there. I think at that meeting, and Mrs. out here and Star and Ways had a very good article and explained the whole thing about that. As far as privatizing, they're looking at it at the MUA. I'm not a spokesman for them, I don't wanna be, but I think that article in the Star and Ways more or less cleared everything up for a period of time.
Yes, that's why I said through 2014, that's what Matt Eckert, that was the direct quote for him for time frame.
Right.
So that's all I can say, that's from Matt Eckert's mouth, that's MUA.
That's a different identity, they'll take care of it down there, but I think that was an exploratory thing that started, and it just got out of hand. I'm not sure yet, but we'll look into it. Okay, with that. The other thing, the reason I stepped up here, and I really don't know if that camera is there, but I've been talking back and forth to, what's your name again? To Mike Ball, and also to the mayor, because I feel that there's something wrong here as far as with the taxpayers and people coming up here and talking, because I think they should be treated the same as anybody else that comes up to this microphone that might not even be a member or a taxpayer of this township. And I think, really, my personal thing, that they should have the same courtesy as everybody else. And we've been going back and forth with this for months, and we've got all kinds of excuses why it's not there, why it's not being done that way. And I don't see any reason why that camera can't be turned a little bit and let the people see who's talking, not just the voice in the background.
You want the camera to show on the residents when they come up here?
I think it's a matter of
Okay,
courtesy.
now let me just say something here. You know, the last thing I want to do is inhibit somebody from coming up here. If somebody comes in here with a complaint and it is something that they don't want, you know what I mean, you've taken liberties, taken a microphone, walked over there, that's fine, that's you. If council wants that, if they want to put the camera on people when they come up here,
You
can
haven't
say
taken
so.
it to council.
My personal belief is, well, you know, not every issue, nobody's ever brought it up. The point is, again, people come in, the camera's stationary, it's on us. If we have a special presentation, the person knows they're going to be on TV, that's fine. But people come in here, sometimes they make complaints, they may not want to. They may not want to be on TV. They may not want their neighbor to see their face. So we don't put them on there. It's as simple. Well, I got that, Ed, and since we're up here, that's what happens.
But I'm just saying, it's a
My
matter of
opinion
courtesy
is,
and.
Mayor's opinion is very right. If you remember a few years ago, Wildwood used to do that. People would get up intentionally and bring wild statements up to get their 15 minutes on television. This is a council meeting, it's showing the council, the public, you can hear the public.
Anybody got the stomach come up here and make a complaint or talk, I'm sure they have no problem as far as being on.
Well, that's your opinion.
That's my thing, and that's yours.
Well,
So we
let
have
me
be
cut to the
competitive.
chase, Ed, real quick, so we can move on.
Yes,
Jimmy,
we
are
can
you
move
happy
on.
the way it is now?
I'm good.
Aren't you happy? Thank you, Ed. Thank you for your
You want to
question.
consider it.
Yes, sir.
To reiterate, you, about not showing a person's face.
Right.
They come up and they identify themselves by name
Yes, they do.
and address and what have you.
Well, no, they identify
So
themselves by
you're
town.
still getting
By
an
town.
identification.
No, they identify themselves by town. If somebody came to me and they just gave part of a name and they had a good reason, I certainly wouldn't force them. But, I mean, you know, the bottom line is, we've already said, we're comfortable the way it is, Frank. It's the way it is.
That's well, but what the only point I'm bringing out is you don't want an identification. Well, then people come up to the microphone, they shouldn't identify themselves.
Yeah, it takes away their right, be at a public meeting. There's a privacy clause. A lot of places have to sign a release before you're up there. We're public officials. We don't have that say. We're all in
Well,
that.
I understand about you guys. What I'm
But
saying
are we gonna
is,
have everybody
suppose
sign
I don't want
paper?
my face on there, and I don't want somebody to know my name.
We say
But,
John
you know,
Doe from North Cape May is one thing, but putting your picture on there, and then you go into ShopRite, and somebody says, there's the guy that was on TV. So, I mean, that's what we're trying to say, is listen to me.
I
I
understand.
shop before 9 o'clock because of this television.
I know, my
got
wife has
work.
caught you there.
So just take this conversation as an example of trying to videotape this conversation. That camera would be going back and forth
That's one thing.
between what you're saying and what he's saying, and people would be dizzy. So
We are a lot of busy people.
to do it right, you'd have to have 2 cameras, and then somebody you're gonna pay to edit a final version so they can make this thing seem like it's a,
All right, we just made this thing.
The great and wonderful council has ruled. That's right, Monday Night Football. Anybody else wish to address council? Yes, sir.
Hi, Mayor, Council.
What?
In reference to, I'm Dan Santoro from North Cape May, 311 Roseanne Avenue.
Yes.
I'm not afraid to say it.
Right.
Okay?
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
Look into the camera.
Is there any progress with Roseanne Avenue? I did see the workers out there. They seem to be doing a pretty good job. I don't know exactly what they're doing. It appears to me they're cleaning culverts.
Yeah, we've been doing some work out there, what we can do. We also are waiting, Hatch wants, what, about 2 weeks
Yeah, I
out?
was just going to give the mayor and council an update, that actually will answer your question too. Our engineers checked with the engineers that have been assigned to do the mapping and the survey, and that's just about completed. They're preparing the map. They said about 1 to 2 weeks we should have results with that. And the other area was the DOT on the Clubhouse Road. Is the other issue I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
But to answer your question, about 1 to 2 weeks we'll have the surveying and the mapping done, and we'll have a better idea what we're dealing with as far as the drainage in that neighborhood.
Okay, and that'll give you an idea of what has to be done?
Well, you know, again, there's, without going into it, we've had a meeting here, we had the county down, we met inside here, and there's a lot of it. One of it is elevation. There's not a lot that this township can do about elevation. It's why we were so specific in bringing the people down here and asking people to file for that. I mean, when your elevation is basically the same as the creek next to you, it's hard to solve that. We'll do what we can, but in the meantime, understand it's a complicated issue. And before we put millions of dollars over there, the only thing I want to make sure is that when we do that, it solves the problem. And that is why, you know, we spent, the county and the federal government or whatever privates, they spent almost $5 million on that Coxhole Creek project that was supposed to help control flooding in that area. And the guy at the county says, well, it works, because your water was gone within about an hour over there when you had that significant flooding, as the water was going up here in an hour. You're putting so much water into a neighborhood because of these quote-unquote biblical rains like they had in Colorado, et cetera, et cetera. And you just, I don't know if we can control all that. We're doing everything we can. That's all I can promise you. But it's prudent steps, making sure that what we do is actually not just throwing money out there, but actually would solve the problem.
I understand that. The only thing is, 10 years ago, the water did exactly the same thing. And I'm not up here to play games with you people.
I got you. Then 10
You know,
years
but
ago,
10
an
years
Indiana
ago,
meeting.
10 years ago, and every flood after that, approximately 10 or 12.
Right.
You're right.
And I'll
It
show
takes
you
about
the
an hour,
papers, the
but I don't see
project,
the progress.
the Cape May, and the progress was the Cape May Coxhole Creek project, which was made or designed for a variety of reasons, one of which was flood control. Okay? And that, in the words of one of the people that was at the meeting from the county, has been successful. Because your water, although it built up, was gone after a while. It's not that it stayed in there, it emptied out. Just like, well, I said we could have launched the ferry on Bay Shore Road. It was deep enough, and it was gone. I mean, I had to drive to the bay to get around it. The water was all the way up to the bank. Now, in a half hour, you rode down Bay Shore Road, you didn't even know it rained there. And that may be the best that we can do. You know, it might be that we can alleviate some of it by doing some of the drainage, some of the pumps, or whatever we can do. But at the end of it, it might not be totally solvable simply because of your elevation. The fact that we all agree on is that if we had that over again, we wouldn't build there. Okay, now, the problem is there, and I mean, we didn't do that. It was a council decisions made in this township 40, 50 years ago to allow people to build there. And we're paying that penalty now. And I'm not sure it's totally solvable, but you're gonna have to be patient with this, and there's no solution that's gonna be done within a couple months. It's gonna be a long-term thing, step by step. And I understand your passion. I understand the neighbors' concerns. But it doesn't do us to spend money that won't have a result.
We understand that too, but last weekend, we did speak to Senator Van Drew about this.
Right.
And I asked him just one simple question. I said, all the people that donated that Coxall thing, to open that up, to let the tidal water in and all, I said, are them people, is it possible you could get funding from them to help support this cause? And he said, it's a possibility. So maybe that's something you should look into.
Well, you know, we send him emails. He's aware of our concerns. So he is copied on anything we've sent to the state. I'm not privy to give you all the information that we send out, because you call people and they say, well, we'll look at it. And if you're lucky, they say, well, look, maybe we can help you. But sometimes I don't want people calling the people that we're trying to reach out to. But we have copied him. We've copied a lot of people. They're aware of our problem. We're fighting a dual problem, not only the FEMA maps, but also the realistic problem of the current flooding. But it's not only there. There's a lot of areas, and there's, you know, somebody could say global warming, and I couldn't argue with that, but we're getting, you know, more water in more areas. But the key is, like I said, the water was gone. And I was over there during that rain, and I know, and it was deep, but it was gone within a while.
It is, but it did that 10 years ago, that's my point.
I don't know if it went as quickly as it did.
No, I'll be honest with you. Into my first year owning that property,
Right.
I was there for my first experience. I think one time you were councilman, I stopped over your house.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that.
I
You probably get a lot of it.
I taught you at the academy?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And there were some good years.
I was very young when I was a teacher, so don't even try.
No, but my first experience, and on average, throughout the year before any of this was mentioned, it takes about that long, all the time, for that water to go down. It's not all day, it's an hour, hour and a half.
Right.
But my point with telling you that is, I don't see the progress with, what they did as far as getting the water to go away quicker. That's all.
And for some people in that area, the progress may mean elevation. And I'm being quite frank about that. I have in my back room here now, an elevation map of that area. And when you have an elevation for a home that's the same elevation as, we call it Coxwell Creek, it's really a swamp. When you have the same elevation for a house as you do a swamp, you can put a pump up there and create the world's largest water cycle. You're going to pump water into the creek that's going to come up from groundwater back into where you just pumped it from. Just going to keep going around in circles. And we spent a lot of money and done nothing. I'm just saying that we're prepared to do what's necessary to help the people, but we have to find out what that is.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes?
George Doherty, Seashore Road. I just wanted to ask on the bike path, I saw we're going to continue it and try and join the 47, join Middle Township. How are we doing with that? Because I believe that could be a good thing for our area too, having like a run, a 5K run from the zoo to the ferry, bringing people that aren't familiar with our area, get them in Lower Township. They might like to stay here for a weekend for a run or something. I think that's something important. We should be moving forward as fast as possible. So just asking our progress on that.
The council is aware we've met with the Delaware River Bay Authority, the ferry, the executive director, Mr. Green. We have a great rapport with that organization. And we're working with them, we're working with our neighbors in Middle Township to complete the trail. Not going to happen overnight, but we are moving as quick as we can to offer our services in-house to keep the cost down and to finally get it completed. But, you know, we're gonna have to go through environmental permits and all that type of stuff.
The electric company already gave their approval. I guess.
I'm not sure about all that, but
That's what we're gonna use there.
It's an ongoing progressive meeting, and we're moving as quick as we can. This council knows what they want, and we're working with our neighbors at the RBA in Middle Township.
Like I said, I think that's a good thing for our area. I think it'll bring people for a 5K run or something. I think people are a little leery on going like the Boston Marathon in New York now. Maybe something right in our area, you know, to bring people to see what Lower Township's like and have to offer, you know, for, you know, some outsiders. So just an idea.
Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else wish to address the council?
Mayor, I have just two things. It was brought up about Clubhouse Road, DOT where it stands. The engineer was on the phone today with DOT officials. They stated they've been directed to complete some work on federal projects prior to addressing the state aid projects, this is part of the state aid project. And they should be proceeding by the end of the month, and we should have permits on that. Second thing is the Millman. We heard from some nice young ladies last meeting about containers and what the status is there, and that's being addressed by the Recreation Department. And we're working on putting together a nice grand opening for the Millman in the next several weeks. If you've been by there, the siding's been completed. It looks absolutely gorgeous inside and out. And the council and the people of this town are going to be very proud of the Millman Community Center when we open it.
All right. We have a motion to go into closed session.
Resolution number 2013-259. A resolution providing for a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. This is to discuss contract negotiation updates, the AFSCME rec aids.
And note that there's the potential to come back in an open session to ratify this. So I have a motion to go into.
Councilmember Conrad. Councilmember Neville.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark.
Yes.
Mayor Beck.
Yes.